Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I think this video is quite overdue. So I know I said I was going to have this video out explaining this whole story back in January, but the timing just didn't feel right back then, and I just wasn't ready, nor did I have all of the answers that I have today in order to tell you all the story of what happened back in December with my eye. If you've been following me since back in December, then you know that I had an issue with my eye literally December 1st. I was sent to the hospital. I had an eye issue. I was seeing double of everything. I had double vision, and this is kind of just the long extended story of everything that happened since then and where I am today. Before I start this video at all, I do just want to preface this with a full disclaimer that I have absolutely no history in anything in the medical field, nothing in the biology field. So all of these things that I am reiterating to you are what I've been hearing from all of my doctors. I am not asking for any medical advice. I am not seeking anyone else's help. I have doctors for all of this. So if you could just please refrain in the comments from telling me what you think I might have, or, you know, giving your medical advice, I would really appreciate it, because it's just been such a journey, and I've gotten a lot of messages and a lot of comments from people telling me what they think I have, or, you know, what they recommend I do, and it's just been a lot. So I would appreciate it if you just left that alone in the comments, please. With that being said, with all of the medical terms that I plan to use, I'll try to remember to leave definitions for you here at the bottom, so that way you also understand what I'm explaining. And without further ado, let's just begin the whole story. If you see me looking away, I am referring to the notes that I took on my laptop, just because it's been quite a few months since all of this stuff has happened. So as things were happening, I was jotting down notes so that way I could remember to retell the story correctly. So December 1st, 2020, it was like any other day. I was driving to the gym. I tried to go for a deadlift PR. I attempted it twice and I didn't get it, and I decided to re-rack all of the weights and then move on to my next workout. As I was doing my next workout, I noticed that there's something wrong with my vision. I didn't feel dizzy or anything. I just felt like there's something wrong with my vision, and I sat down for a bit. I was freaking out a little bit because it was nothing that I've ever experienced. I could just kind of tell that something was wrong, something was off this time. And I called my sister and I was like, hey, I don't feel comfortable right now. Can you stay on the phone with me just in case anything happens? And she stayed on the phone with me, and I realized that whatever I was experiencing wasn't going away. I decided to stand up from where I was, and I tried to walk to the front desk for help. And as I was walking to the front desk, I saw in the reflection of my phone that one of my eyes was kind of like off. And I would kind of describe it as my eye was kind of floating off. One of my eyes was. And when I saw myself in the reflection, I knew I had to go get help. I knew I had to go to the hospital. I was honestly scared because I've never seen my eye do that before. And I was still on the phone with my sister the entire time. I tried to walk over to the front desk and I couldn't, just because I couldn't see straight. I just felt so disoriented, and I didn't know if it was vertigo. I didn't know if it was because I was lightheaded. Like, so many thoughts were in my head when that was happening that, you know, I just walked to the front to ask for help as fast as I could. They called 911. The EMTs came and they checked my eyes. They were doing a bunch of tests. They realized that I was okay because I was answering all of their questions correctly. You know, my name, my age, where I'm from, my phone number, everything. They decided to take me to the emergency room anyway because there just was something off with my eye. The emergency room doctor diagnosed it as a third nerve palsy. Took a bunch of blood tests, had an MRI scan, and I kind of just had to wait the whole time. I still didn't fully understand what I was experiencing at the hospital. I was basically just in the hospital winking the entire time like this. So the first day in the hospital, I didn't get very many answers. I was kind of just left, you know, waiting for a doctor to tell me what happened. Second day comes, they wake me up in the morning to take more blood tests. I went to go get another MRI scan, and they admit me into the hospital. The main doctor comes in and he tells me that I'm going to be seeing a neurologist. So the hospital neurologist came in and he told me that I had a stroke. He said that the reason for my stroke was because I was on birth control. At the time, I was on birth control for a solid 3 years or so now. I was taking it for acne and for my period regulation. I don't smoke. I would say I'm fairly healthy for someone my age, and just the news that I had a stroke was very, very surprising and peculiar, and I didn't know how to react to that. When the neurologist diagnosed that I had a stroke, they sent me to the neuro unit where they monitored me. They gave me tests every 4 hours. During this whole time, they weren't allowing visitors at the hospital either, so I was just basically alone the entire time. It was my first time at the hospital as a patient, so I was very, very scared. They kept me for another day just to run more blood tests and just to make sure that there was no brain damage. So before I left the hospital, they prescribed me medication that you would normally take when you have a stroke. And they also said that I had to go see an ophthalmologist and a neurologist. Oh man, I don't even know how to get into how I was feeling at this time because it was a very rough time for me. I kind of don't even want to get into how I was feeling at this time because I just don't know how to explain all of the emotions that were going through my head at the time. To fast forward a week after my discharge from the hospital, it was actually my 26th birthday and I went to go see an ophthalmologist. So basically, the only symptoms I was experiencing at this time was double vision. Another term for double vision is diplopia. Diplopia. The whole thing that was so peculiar about the stroke diagnosis is the only thing that I was experiencing was the third nerve palsy. If you didn't see any of my previous posts, I was experiencing severe double vision. I'll edit the screen to show you exactly what I was experiencing at the time. The only solution to that was basically to wear an eye patch, and with an eye patch, I could see straight with this eye, and then if I switched over to this side, I could see straight with this eye. How the doctors tested me is when they asked me to follow their finger, everything was fine this way, but when I moved and I looked this way, as the finger kept moving this way, I saw double vision more and more, and it was like splitting further and further apart. And it's because my eye stopped moving halfway. So when it would try to look over in one direction, it would stop. And then that is what was causing the double vision. It's kind of hard to explain it, but I do have videos of that time that I'll be sharing on the screen. I asked the doctor so many times if my weightlifting had anything to do with what happened to my vision, and they said no. All of the doctors said no. I'm highly suspicious of that just because this happened while I was at the gym, literally right after I attempted a PR. So I'm assuming that it did have something to do with it, but regardless, fast forward to my first ophthalmologist appointment. I went into my ophthalmologist, I told her what happened, I gave her all of my hospital records and everything, and she confirmed that I did have a third nerve palsy in my eye. She was very kind and very patient with me, and she told me that there was no definitive answer that she could give me of when my eye could go back to normal or if it would ever go back to normal. And hearing that for the first time from a professional was very terrifying because you always expect a doctor to give you an answer that you'd want to hear. And just to get an answer from a doctor saying they don't know is very terrifying. I was experiencing a wave of emotions just because I didn't know what was going to happen from there. There was nothing really the ophthalmologist could do. She just tested my eyes to make sure that there was nothing behind it, there was no pressure behind my eyes, and that everything was fine. She said that my eyes were fine except for, the double vision and the third nerve palsy that was going on. She scheduled a follow-up appointment for a month after, and she asked me to just give her an update of what the neurologist says. A few weeks after that, this is now late December, I had an appointment with the neurologist. It was a phone call with the neurologist, and he basically dismissed everything that the doctors at the hospital said. He told me that I did not have a stroke. He told me that the cause of my double vision is because of my allergies, and he prescribed me allergy medicine and then didn't even ask to follow up with me. He didn't even look at me face to face because this appointment was through the phone, so I don't even understand how he thought he could diagnose anything from that. I was honestly just at a loss for words after that appointment. I refused to let my problem be dismissed because I was still experiencing really bad double vision. I was still wearing an eye patch and I felt so helpless. I was unable to work, I was unable to roller skate. basically do anything in my day-to-day life. After that neurologist appointment though, I did not let up, and I asked my primary care doctor to refer me to a different neurologist because I refused to be dismissed like that. I wanted to get answers. The holidays came and I couldn't get an appointment for any other doctors, so we waited until January. My first appointment with my new neurologist was in late January, but during the first early weeks of January, my mom asked me if I wanted to go see an acupuncturist. I personally did not want to go see an acupuncturist because I know that it hurts. I did end up seeing an acupuncturist though, just because my mom asked me to. I didn't want to dismiss it. I was honestly open to trying anything at this point because I was just feeling so hopeless for my eye. You know, hearing from the ophthalmologist that there's a possibility that your vision will never go back to normal is terrifying, so I was willing to try anything. They had needles in my head, they had needles around my arms, my legs, and they had needles around my eye. It was painful, I didn't like it, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So seeing my new neurologist, I gave him all of the paperwork from the previous neurologist and all of my hospital work. What he saw personally at the time with my double vision, he was saying that the paperwork does not line up with what he is seeing from my eyes at the time. My neurologist said that even the smallest stroke would leave some sort of scar tissue or some kind of thing that you could see in the MRI that he was not seeing. He was testing my eyes, doing like all of those tests, and he ordered another MRI scan. He wanted to see what exactly the doctor was seeing, and he wanted to just make sure that there was no actual brain damage. So in late January, I had my follow-up appointment with my neurologist, and he sat me down, he looked at the new MRI scans, he looked at my eyes, he looked at all of my blood tests, and he basically said that he was 99% sure that we could rule out stroke as the cause for my double vision and what I was experiencing. It was such a weird thing to process because you put your trust into a doctor and misdiagnoses happen a lot. I never would have thought that I would be a person that would be misdiagnosed and experiencing all of this. So I was basically on the stroke medication for 2 months before my new neurologist told me that I did not have a stroke and I did not need to be on that medication. So now that my current neurologist was ruling out stroke as one of the reasons why the whole thing happened with my eye, he had a suspicion that it was either NMO or Miller-Fisher syndrome, and I believe Miller-Fisher syndrome is a form of Guillain-Barré syndrome. So he sent me to run some more tests, and I had another follow-up appointment with him the following month. Fast forward to about mid-February, I decided to start taking the eye patch off. My vision in mid-February had slightly improved, so I was kind of comfortable taking off the eye patch, but at this time I still wasn't working, I wasn't driving, I wasn't going anywhere. Late February was the next follow-up appointment with my neurologist. He got my blood tests back and we checked for NMO and for Miller-Fisher syndrome, and he said he did not see that in my blood tests. My neurologist was honestly at a loss for words, and I feel so bad that I put him through the ringer in order to figure things out, but I respect him so much for being so diligent and for not giving up on me and for, you know, trying to figure this all out with me. Because he noticed that there was improvement in my eyes, he decided to do the next follow-up appointment in 3 months to give me just a little bit more time to see if my eye would get better, because he also just wasn't sure if my eye would ever go back to normal. So he ordered me to go take a CT scan, and then I would follow up with him again in May. During that time, honestly, everything's all kind of a blur. Because I stopped wearing my eye patch back in February, I had to readjust to things. I was definitely still experiencing quite a bit of double vision, but it was slightly getting better. So skipping all the way to May, a week before the next doctor's appointment that I had, I received a call from my neurologist, and he said that he saw something in my CT scans, and he asked me to go get another blood test because he wanted to check my thyroids. He sounded very hopeful that he might have found a reason, or he might have found, you know, what was wrong. I went to get a blood test the day that he called me. A week after that, I went in for my appointment. When I checked my blood results for that, there was nothing wrong with my thyroids. It's just so funny because I've taken so many blood tests since December, and just for all of the blood tests to come back and, you know, for my doctor to tell me, hey, everything's fine, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. It's funny to me now, but looking back at it, it was just so ridiculous. I have my notes with me just to make sure that I get these terms right. But my doctor said that it was the medial rectus muscle in the orbit of my left eye that was slightly enlarged, which was causing me to not be able to fully move my eye inward. The medial rectus muscle is the muscle that helps you move your eyes inwards, and that is what was causing my double vision. At this time back in May, I was almost fully able to see everything normally, except for when I looked over to my right and downwards for some reason. So because I did all of the blood tests and my doctor basically looked through everything and couldn't figure out a specific cause for this in my blood. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. I'm repeating how he pronounced it, but he thinks that I have orbital myositis. When I asked him what the treatment was, he said that I would have to be on a specific type of steroids for 2 years, and that there were a lot of side effects to it, and it wasn't something to be taken lightly. So he wanted to get a second opinion before I even start any sort of treatment, or before we finally diagnose what this whole thing was. My appointment with the eye specialist or ophthalmologist isn't until August, but I just felt like the timing of me to tell this video was right, because if I waited any longer, I felt like I would have forgotten a lot of the details of the story. As of right now, my double vision is actually almost gone. When I look and I track my finger like this, you probably can't even tell, but only when I look to my very, very far right can I see a slight double vision. The double vision when I look down is gone. When I look to my left, up, it's basically almost all gone now. I definitely do still kind of see double vision, and it takes me slightly longer to adjust from focusing on something close versus something far. I don't know if this whole incident had anything to do with the adjustment kind of thing, but that is currently what I'm experiencing. But I think you can tell within the past couple of videos that my vision is perfectly fine. So yeah, as I am filming this right now, my vision is basically almost back to normal. My neurologist was honestly kind of hesitant in diagnosing the orbital myositis because I wasn't experiencing any of the other symptoms of it besides the double vision. But out of everything else that he found, that was the only thing that he could consider diagnosing this as. So that's basically it. And I know it might be frustrating for you that there is no, definitive answer to this. There is no actual diagnosis, but yeah, it's been very frustrating for me too, but I am honestly very, very thankful that my neurologist was so thorough and that he didn't give up on me. Yeah, I just appreciate it so much. I apologize if this video was kind of all over the place. It was a very long time frame for me to explain this whole story. So even though I really didn't get a definitive answer or a for sure diagnosis, I still plan to go see the eye specialist next month to see what they'll say. There's definitely just a sense of relief that I do have my vision again, but there's also that fear that this whole thing could happen again. Thank you all so much for sitting here and listening through this entire story, but I think that's basically it. Thank you all so much for being patient with me. Thank you for, being supportive and for being so kind to me as I went through that whole experience. I'm so thankful to be where I am today with my vision. I'm so thankful for all the doctors that have helped me through everything, and yeah, I'm just gonna end the video here. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!